We're jumping right into one of the most transformative clashes in modern history. The Battle of Stalingrad.
Right. And if you're looking for the exact moment World War II pivots, this is pretty much it.
So before we get into the battle itself,
Hmm.
let's start with the big question. Why Stalingrad? Why was this one city worth so much?
It really comes down to geography and, well, economics. Stalingrad is right on the western bank of the Volga River.
And the Volga is like the main artery for the Soviet Union.
Exactly. Think of it as a superhighway for resources. If you control Stalingrad, you can basically sever that artery
You cut off their supply.
completely. You stop the oil coming up from the Caucasus. You stop the grain moving north. If Germany takes that city, the Soviet war effort could, just grind to a halt.
And there was more to it than just logistics, right?
Yeah.
There was a huge political angle for Hitler.
Oh, absolutely. The city's name, Stalingrad, the city of Stalin. For Hitler, taking it wasn't just a military objective.
It was personal.
It was a massive psychological victory he was after. He wanted to demoralize everyone, from Stalin down to the average soldier.
So the German Sixth Army rolls in expecting what? A quick victory.
A very quick victory, a classic blitzkrieg sweep. But that's not what happened. Stalin issued Order 227.
Not one step back.
Not one step back. And that order turned what was supposed to be a fast campaign into this brutal, grinding stalemate.
Which brings us to August 1942. And the battle starts not on the ground, but in the air.
Right. The Luftwaffe launches these massive bombing raids, just relentless.
And the city is just flattened.
Totally flattened. Within days, it's not a city anymore. It's just miles of broken bricks and twisted metal. And that rubble, ironically, changed everything.
It actually became a defensive weapon for the Soviets.
It did. It made tank warfare almost impossible. The fighting was forced down into this horrible close-quarters combat.
We're not talking about taking city blocks anymore.
No, not at all. We're talking about fighting for a single room, a staircase, a factory floor. Progress was measured in yards, sometimes feet.
And this is where that famous German term comes from.
Rattenkrieg.
The War of the Rats.
And it's a terrifyingly accurate description. Soldiers were basically burrowing through ruins, fighting in basements, in sewers. You never knew where an attack would come from.
So for the soldiers and the civilians trapped there, what was daily life even like? It sounds unimaginable.
It was a 24-hour nightmare. People were crammed into basements and tunnels just to escape the constant artillery.
The noise alone must have been.
Unbearable. Explosions day and night. Nobody slept. And the physical toll was just horrendous.
And of course, no food, no clean water.
Almost none. And with everyone packed together in these dirty, damp bunkers, diseases like typhus just spread like wildfire. It was a fight for inches of ground, but also a fight against starvation, disease, and complete exhaustion.
Okay, so the Germans have air superiority. They're better equipped.
Yeah.
How did the Soviets, under General Zhukov, even manage to hold on?
Well, Zhukov knew he couldn't win a conventional fight, so he came up with a brilliant and pretty counterintuitive strategy.
The hugging tactic.
Hugging tactic.
You mean getting closer to the Germans, not farther away.
Exactly. They kept their front lines extremely close, sometimes just 20 or 30 yards apart.
So the German bombers couldn't risk hitting their own men.
Precisely. It neutralized the Luftwaffe. It forced the Germans to fight on the ground, man to man, which leveled the playing field a lot.
So the German tanks and planes become almost useless. But even so, how do they keep their own guys supplied? They're backed up against a river.
That Volga crossing was incredibly dangerous. Every bullet, every loaf of bread had to be ferried across at night.
Under constant German fire.
Constant fire. They lost so many boats, so many men just trying to cross, but it was their only lifeline.
And the Soviets also used the city's infrastructure against the Germans, right? The big factories.
Yes, those were crucial. Places like the Red October factory, these were huge, reinforced concrete structures.
They turned them into fortresses.
Absolute fortresses. They fought for weeks over a single workshop. It just bled the German army dry of men, ammunition, and time.
So while the German Sixth Army is being exhausted in the city center, the Soviet High Command is planning something huge.
Something massive and in total secrecy. This is what leads to Operation Uranus. The Germans had no idea it was coming.
All their focus was on the rubble of the city.
Every last man. They thought the Soviets were on their last legs, completely consumed by the defense.
But instead, the Soviets were gathering these huge armies far to the north and south.
And on November 19th, 1942, they attacked. But they didn't hit the German Sixth Army head-on. That would have been suicide.
They hit the flanks.
Exactly. And the flanks were the weak point.
Who was holding them?
Mostly Allied troops, Romanians, Hungarians. They were brave, but they just didn't have the heavy anti-tank guns to stop a massive Soviet armored assault.
So the Soviet tanks just punched right through.
They moved incredibly fast. In just 4 days, the two pincers met at the town of Kalak.
And just like that, the entire German Sixth Army was surrounded.
The whole army, around 250,000 men trapped in a pocket. The hunters had become the hunted.
It must have been an unbelievable shock to German command. So now they're the ones cut off.
A total disaster. And Hitler's order was to stand fast, not to break out. He promised them they'd be supplied by air.
Which was a promise from the head of the Luftwaffe, Hermann Goering.
It was. Goering guaranteed he could fly in 300 tons of supplies every single day. That was the bare minimum they needed to survive.
But the reality was
Catastrophic. They never even came close. On a good day, they might manage 100 tons. Most days, it was far less. Or nothing at all.
why did it fail so badly?
3 reasons. 1, really heavy Soviet anti-aircraft fire. 2, the Soviet Air Force was fighting back hard. And 3, the biggest factor, the weather.
The Russian winter.
The Russian winter. Thick fog, blizzards. The transport planes just couldn't fly, so the men inside the pocket were already exhausted, and now they were starving and freezing.
And without fuel, all their tanks and trucks were just useless pieces of frozen metal.
Exactly. Their mobility was gone. Their ability to stay warm was gone.
And you can't overstate the role of the winter itself as a weapon.
It was brutal. Temperatures dropped to 30 below 0 Fahrenheit.
And the Germans had been sent in summer uniforms.
They had no proper winter gear. Frostbite was everywhere. Men were losing fingers, toes. Meanwhile, the Soviets were used to it. They had their padded jackets, their fur hats.
Even their weapons worked better in the cold.
Right. German machine guns would jam because the lubricating oil froze solid. The whole situation was just completely hopeless.
Which brings us to the commander, General Paulus. He sees this. He knows it's over.
He does. He radios Hitler and begs for permission to surrender, or at least attempt a breakout, to save his men.
And Hitler's response.
A flat no. He ordered Paulus to fight to the last bullet. Surrender was not an option.
And then Hitler sends that final cynical message.
He promotes Paulus to field marshal.
Which was basically in order to commit suicide, right?
It was. No German field marshal had ever been taken alive. The expectation was clear. Die fighting or take your own life.
But Paulus didn't.
He didn't. On January 31st, 1943, with no food, no ammunition, and his forces split, he surrendered.
And over 90,000 German soldiers were taken prisoner. But for them, the ordeal wasn't over.
Not even close. They were forced on these death marches to prison camps, deep in the Soviet Union.
Already starving, sick, frostbitten.
Thousands died on the march. And the final numbers are just staggering.
How many of those 90,000 made it home?
Only about 6,000.
6,000.
Just 6,000 ever saw Germany again. Most died from disease or starvation in the camps. Many of the survivors didn't get back until the mid-1950s.
And the Soviet losses were even more astronomical.
Immense. You're looking at combined casualties, military and civilian, approaching 2 million people. It's one of the bloodiest battles in all of human history. The city was, just gone. It had to be rebuilt from nothing.
So tying it all together, why does Stalingrad matter so much to the story of World War II?
Because it shattered the myth of German invincibility. It was the absolute high watermark of the German advance. From Stalingrad on, they were always on the defensive, always retreating.
It showed the world that the German war machine could be stopped, and it could be beaten.
Exactly. It gave the Allies, and especially the Soviets, this huge surge of confidence. And industrially, it marked the point where Soviet production really started to overwhelm the Germans. It became a symbol of resilience.
It's a terrifying lesson in how quickly a powerful army can be destroyed by strategic overreach and a failure of logistics.
It is. The central question of Stalingrad isn't just who won, but whether any strategic goal could possibly justify that level of human cost. Good luck with your understanding of this vital turning point in history.